Hi, this side Avit Bansal. I'm an author and a life coach in the art of conscious living. I've made myself available here with just one simple intention: to spread the right awareness about the phenomena of life, what people call as manifestation. And here's my assurance to you: whatever I will be sharing in these videos, it will be completely faithful to the original intention of Neville Goddard, and it will be coming straight from my own experience. So when I say, when everyone says, like, change your self-concept, but Neville never said about the word self-concept, not even once. Neville spoke of something far more profound, far more powerful, and far more fundamental. He called it as a concept of self. Not self-concept, but concept of self. And today I want to show you why this difference matters and why mixing these two ideas can completely distort Neville's message, and how understanding your concept of self can actually change the entire shape of your own life. So when Neville said the concept of self, he wasn't talking about your personality. He wasn't talking about coincidence or communication skills or your some kind of a confidence that you have, or maybe how you dress or how you view yourself socially. He was speaking of identity, and that was the concept of self. Not the story who you think you are, but the being who is thinking of that story. He was talking about that being. He was speaking of something far more deep and foundational, and that is your I am, which sits beneath your name, which sits beneath and far beyond your history, your trauma, your preferences, your habit, and your emotions. The concept of self is not how you see yourself as a person. It is the identity you occupy in your own consciousness. And that is the state from which you think, that which you feel, which you respond, and you live from. So Neville said exactly this. So I will quote him. He said, "Your concept of self determines the world in which you live. Not your affirmations, no. Not your positive thinking, but the concept of self. Your concept of self. The being you believe you are at your deepest level. And that is the concept of self." So what I am seeing nowadays, which is available online through law of attraction coaches and different sources, they usually say improve your self-concept, which includes like affirmations like I am confident. Work upon your I am lovable. Work upon your I am successful. I am worthy. I am good enough. Yes, this is surface level psychology, and it is useful, yes, definitely, but it is very much shallow compared to Neville Goddard. Whereas if I talk about the concept of self, which Neville actually taught, here you work upon your I amness. I am the one who has my desire. It works upon your identity, not just surface level psychology. It says I am the one who the world reflects differently to. I am the state itself. I am the operant power. And that is the concept of self. Do you see the difference? Self-concept tries to fix the person, but concept of self shifts the identity behind the person. The self-concept tries to improve the personality, various elements of personality, but the concept of self replaces the entire state of being from which that personality emerges. Self-concept tries to adjust the small self, but the concept of self awakens your I amness. So one is cosmetic, completely cosmetic, which is the self-concept, while other is creative, and that is the concept of self. And that is why Neville used to say, your I amness, your consciousness is the creative power. Your imagination is the creative power. Most people fail not because they lack discipline, no. Not because they visualize their manifestation in a wrong way, no. Not because they don't affirm enough. They fail because their concept of self contradicts their own desire. You can affirm whole day long that I am loved. But if your actual concept of self is like I am the someone, usually people leave. I am someone, people leave. Your world will reflect your deeper identity, not just surface level affirmations. You can visualize your abundance in your life. But if your underlying concept of self is that I am someone who struggles, your world has no choice but to mirror exact that assumption of yours. Your world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are, or rather what you believe you are, who you believe you are. That is why Neville said, and I would like to quote him, to be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded with that which you are conscious of being. So, when I talk about the self-concept, it is very surface level psychology. But when I talk about your I amness, that is the concept of self, what you think about yourself in the deepest of your heart, when suddenly something goes wrong in your life, the very first thing that you utter from your mouth, which has no control over your conscious mind, and your conscious mind has no control over it, it manifests in your life consciously. So one day I was talking to a person, a very small short story, and he told me like, I'm trying to manifest a wealth in my life. I affirm I do all those so-called techniques in my life. But what happened like recently, I lost my job. And it was a very bad phase. I don't know why these things happening to me, and I'm just tired of these things. I guess I'm just unlucky one. Although he was working on affirmations, on his self-concept that he is rich or maybe wealthy or an entrepreneur or is a person who's having a lot of money. But his concept of self was he was unlucky. It is the very first word he uttered when something goes wrong. Something went wrong. It is the very first word. First sentence he uttered, that maybe I'm unlucky. And that is the concept of self. And in other words, if I have to say, consciousness wins every time. Identity wins every time. Even if you want to paint it over, even if you want to sugarcoat it with your day and night affirmation, series of affirmation, you can parrot it down. But what you think of yourself deep within your heart, how you react to the problems of the world, and the very first thing you tell yourself, you don't have to fool yourself. You will know it, what you consider yourself to be in this moment right now, but only if you're critical about itself. So you can think of the concept of self as a root state, as a very fundamental root state. You can decorate the branches with your affirmations. You can polish the leaves with visualizations. But if the root is the same state, the tree will always bear the same fruit. If the root is unworthiness, the fruit will be rejection. If the root is fear, the fruit will be loss itself. If the root is lack, then the fruit will be scarcity. So Neville didn't teach us to trim the leaves. No, he taught us to change the root identity, and that is our I amness. And because once that root changes, everything in your life reshape itself. So inside of us there are two selves. The psychological self is the very first one, which forms your personality, habits, your insecurities, your preferences, which often is changeable and very emotional and very fragile. And the second is your spiritual self. And that spiritual self is the creative source, and that is your I am. The one who imagines, the one who assumes, and the one who becomes, and that is your spiritual self. Self-concept tries to fix the psychological self, the very first one. But the concept of self awakens the spiritual self, which is the creative source and which is your I am. So the psychological self says, I don't feel confident enough. But the spiritual self says that I am that I am. And followed by anything that you wish in your life. So your psychological self says, I've been rejected multiple times. That's alright. But your spiritual self says, I am the one who is chosen. And that is your identity. And it precedes your name, it precedes your experience, and it precedes the facts of your life. The psychological self says, my past defines me. Maybe I'm a person of certain color, maybe I'm a person of certain habits, maybe I'm a person of certain records over me. But the spiritual self says, I am not the past. I am the present and I am the operant power. And the moment that spiritual self becomes active, your world starts to bend in a ways that the psychological self could never in million years accomplish. It could never accomplish that. But this is where usually people get stuck. They try to improve themselves. You need to carefully listen to this part. They try to improve themselves. They try to fix their confidence. They try to become better. But Neville never told you about to fix the old self. He told you to simply abandon it. To die to it. To do not resurrect the old man. You have to abandon it. To step into new identity entirely, but not to fix it, not to improve it, not to become better. And this is where Neville used to tell us, you need to abandon the old man. So Neville said, change the I am, your I amness, and all the world will change accordingly. He did not say this thing like fix yourself until your manifestation arrives. No, heal every wound first. No, he didn't tell us that. Or he didn't even utter a word about become your best version. He simply said abandon your past. Stop reinfecting yourself with your past. You need to abandon it. You need to completely deassociate yourself from your past, from your old identity, from the old man, and you need to create a new thing. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to improve the past. You don't have to fix your confidence or become better. You need to abandon it. You need to die to it. Unless you die, you cannot live. And this is what Neville told us. So he simply said, assume your desired identity. You become it inwardly. You don't have to do it externally in the world of Caesar, the 3D world. You become it inwardly and let the world rearrange itself. And this is where the important distinction comes into the play. And this is the main teaching of Neville Goddard. But the question arises now, how do we actually shift the concept of self? Now you have understood the difference, the basic difference between the self-concept and the concept of self. One is psychological and one is the creative power in your life. So we don't force it, we don't struggle, we don't work on self, or maybe we try to fix it. No, we enter a new identity by feeling. The first thing that you need to take responsibility about in your own life is I need to deassociate myself from my past. You don't have to forgive others. You have to forgive yourself. Whatever you have done, it is done. Whatever you have been in your past, or whatever things you have done and committed in your past, you have to forgive yourself. Forgiveness doesn't come outside of yourself to you. It comes from within to out. So we need to enter, you need to enter a new identity just by feeling. And you need to learn the art of ignorance. That is the ignorant bliss. And you don't have to become ignorant person or maybe ignorant towards outer world. No, you have to become ignorant towards your own past. So Neville said, assume the feeling of wish fulfilled, not because feeling is emotion, but because feeling is acceptance. Feeling is acceptance. So suppose right now, you're walking in the market and somebody comes up to you and he says, and he's a banker, and he says, right now in the market, the situation of market is really bad. The bearish, bullish market. He used various terms in the banking industry and he says like it's not a right time to invest in the market and I won't suggest you. And from the very first reaction that you give, if you say yes, I also feel the same. If you acknowledge the fact that the person has provided you, you have acknowledged the fact with the feeling. Feeling does not always mean like I'm happy. Feeling also means the feeling of acceptance. If I tell you a fact and you say, yes, I believe you. Yes, I believe you. I trust you. That is also feeling. The feeling of acceptance. So do not limit your feeling to just mere force, sadness, happiness, and all those things. No, feeling also means you're accepting an idea. Or maybe you're rejecting an idea. If somebody who's talking to you, but you do not believe his ideas or his point of view. You simply, in your own mind, say, "No, I don't believe it." And that is also a feeling. So assume the feeling of wish fulfilled, not because the feeling is emotion, no, but because feeling is acceptance. Feeling simply means this is me now, and this is my natural state, and this is who I am, not emotionally, but ontologically. The new identity becomes normal, familiar, and ordinary, but you have to visit that feeling more in frequency and try to stay in that feeling for a longer amount of time. You don't have to go on that rampage series of self-toxication of feeling. No. Feeling simply means acceptance. If you're happy, that is also feeling. But if I consider myself right now, if I don't have a money, not a single penny to my name, but if I consider myself during my visualization session that I am the rich person, then I have to accept it. Maybe if there's a different kind of feeling which is emerging in your own heart, that you're happy, you're very, very, very interested towards earning so much money, you're very keen to invest it and spend it, that is also emotion and that is also feeling. All you have to do is accept it. So this is why Neville spoke so often about naturalness to that feeling. Maybe on the first time when you visualize it, when you say it, your heart will burn. Your mind will say, no, this is something wrong. Just like going to the gym. Whenever you question the doubtness in the feeling, just remember the example of going to the gym. On the very first day, when you pick up a weight of 5 kilogram, maybe 10 kilogram, 20 pound, 30 pound, 50 pound in the dumbbells, you'll feel it hard to pick it up. So hard to pick it up. Next day, it becomes slightly easy. The next day, more easy. And upcoming months, you'll be used to that 5 kilograms or 20-30 lbs of dumbbells. It will be a piece of cake for you. Then you shift on to the next 10 kilo. Then 50 kilo, then 75 kilo. Similarly, you progress. Similarly, when you assume a feeling, you are assuming a feeling in a different state. But once you start to introduce yourself, just like going to the gym, day after day, night after time, it starts to become more natural to you. And once a feeling becomes so natural to you, it does not invoke any kind of a negative or opposing feeling inside of you. It has become natural, and in that exact moment, it will manifest. And here's the proof: when a particular feeling has become your state, you'll not be excited. It will not be dramatic. It will not be forced. It will be completely natural. Sometimes you'll feel bored about it. Yeah, I consider myself as a rich person, so what? And it is that exact moment when it hardens into fact. So Neville said you cannot enter Sabbath until the state feels natural. And you know why? Because Sabbath is rest. Rest means no effort, no trying, no becoming. Maybe you can affirm it more, but when you affirm it, you'll feel it completely natural to you. You'll feel like maybe I should stop it. And it simply means that I am ready. The concept of self, it becomes so stable that you stop checking it, you stop doubting it, and you stop monitoring it. But for that, you need to go to the gym. And in gym, you make yourself aware to that particular feeling day after day, night after night, until it becomes natural in your life. So simply you rest in that identity, and the world is compelled to express it. So as a person who have practiced this so much, I would like to tell you one thing. Every event in your life right now, every relationship, every success, every loss, or every opportunity, every rejection is a mirror reflecting just one thing in your life, currently, in your past, and also in the future. And that is the current concept of self. Your current concept of self. Life is not happening to you at all. It is happening through you. You stand at the center of the cause, not as a personality, not as an ego, not as the emotions, but as the being which is behind them. If your life feels stuck right now, It is not because your affirmations aren't working, or not because the universe is testing you. No, it is because the concept of self that is operating is incompatible with the life that you desire. The concept of self is the actual creator of your life. It is not the dream which is important, or what you dream, or what you dream about, what you do in dream is important. But what is important then? Who is the dreamer who's dreaming? That is important, and that is your I am. So you must shift the concept of self. For that, you first let go, at least give it a try consciously. I need to deassociate myself with my past experience, and you don't try to fix your old self. And that is absolutely fine. So today, if you want to make a new home for your family, if you have a dream of giving a second home to your family, so once you go to maybe buy a piece of land and you buy bricks, wood, mortar, different kind of elements to build that house, you don't go to your old house and pick some new bricks. Pick the old bricks from the old house and put it into the new home. You don't do that. You simply buy a piece of land and you start building over it. You do not obsess, you do not take a single element, you do not try to fix your old home. You simply try to make a new one. And that is the concept of self. The art of letting go is not the fact that you accept what is, it is. No. The art of letting go is simply the art of letting go of your past. Because you cannot carry the old self into the new one. And that is the exact meaning of art of letting go. Not accepting what the fact of life says, okay, this is what I am. This is not art of letting go. The art of letting go simply means you should let go of your past. How a thing which has happened in your past is going to affect you in the future. Only if you keep pushing that past and you keep trying to play with the past in your present moment, because what your current self concept of yourself is going to manifest in future. So do not drag your past into the future. So you need to ask two questions that will change everything in your life. And you need to ask these two questions today. Who am I being right now? Who are you being right now? That is the first question. What state I am identifying with? What identity am I embodying right now in this moment? These should be the question that you need to ask. And the second important question is, who would I be if my desires were already fulfilled? And that is the most important question. And that is the main premise. That is the main notion of Neville Goddard. What would it feel like if it were true? The second question you need to ask, who would I be if my desires were already fulfilled? Would that be the version that make me feel like internally I am very confident? Not emotionally, but identity-wise. And you need to answer these two questions very honestly. Who am I being right now? And who would I be if my desires were already fulfilled? You need to answer these two questions very honestly, and you will know exactly why your life looks the way it does right now. Because your world is a perfect representation of the identity that you're living from. So these two questions are the very important question for any self. If you want to discover yourself only, I'm not talking about Neville Goddard itself. I'm talking about a journal person who doesn't even know about the teachings of Neville Goddard. But if he can contemplate on these two questions, who am I being right now? And the second one is, who would I be if my desires were already fulfilled? He will completely change his life. So the self-concept which the modern age, new age influencers are pushing in on the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok like platforms is completely futile. It is a made up thing. It is a upper level, just psychological thing. What really creates your life is not the level above. It is the deep within. and which is the I am, and that is the concept of self. So you need to work upon the concept of self. You do not need to worry about what you are going to be dreaming in the dream, or what kind of a dream it was. You need to question about the dreamer who is dreaming the dream.